doing, Bill?
Morning.
Bill is running for the Fort Myers Beach Town Council, and I have to tell you, it was a little bit of a surprise. It came out of the hiding in the weeds there, and then decided you were going to run. I'm sure you were thinking about it a lot longer.
Well, I think one of my superpowers is procrastination, and so that really came into play for this.
So who is Bill Veach? Tell the people that are watching and listening who Bill Veach is.
Okay, in a nutshell, I was raised in Colorado, and I lived in Colorado and Utah and New Zealand and Wyoming before moving here. So we moved from 6,300 feet elevation to 6. Bit of a change. I've got degrees in electrical engineering, technology, and computer science. Started a business, built it up. Started in my garage, sold it. We moved to Wyoming to be close to my mom when she was ill, and then when she passed away, we could go anywhere. And we had come down here to look at foreclosed property, and didn't really like Florida before we found Fort Myers Beach, and just loved Fort Myers Beach, loved the little neighborhood we were in, and the neighbors.
And so, how long have you been here now?
10 years.
10 years. And when did you start getting involved in the local politics?
Like any good husband, as soon as my wife suggested I get out and volunteer in something. So it was like maybe we were here a year or two.
Okay, so you've been involved for eight or 9 years?
Yeah, I think I've been the chair of the Marine Resources Task Force for probably 6-7 years.
And you were on other committees as well.
I was the vice chair of the Public Safety Committee.
Talk about all your local political experience.
Well, I started out with Marine Resources Task Force, and I wanted to volunteer. So I originally wanted to get on the Community Resource Advisory Board back when Miffy was the chair, and was told it was full. And then I asked Michelle Mayer, where do they need people? And she said the Marine Resources Task Force. So I volunteered for the Marine Resources Task Force. I was appointed, and then like in the second meeting a bunch of people who were on the committee were leaving, and I was appointed chair.
Okay.
And then I was also the vice chair of the Public Safety Committee. I served with Bruce Butcher on that. He was a chair. And was the chair on the Community Resource Advisory Board. And now I'm the vice chair of the Community Resource Advisory Board and the chair of Marine Resources Task Force.
Okay, so why did you decide to run for town council?
It seemed like a good time. Being involved with 2 committees, especially for a while I was chairing both committees, it was quite a bit of work. And I just feel it'd be more effective maybe being on the council. And even though the councils have been very open to the presentations that we've done for our committee, we try not to waste their time. Still, having a vote is important, and being closer means you can get more done. Because if you come from private industry, you find that working in government is painfully slow. And so I think maybe being in chamber will help get some better things done quicker. The other thing is there's a lot of things that we've been involved with, both the Marine Resources Task Force and the Community Resources Advisory Board, which are going to happen here over the next few years. Part of that is they're going to redo this Times Square area, and then you work down here. This is your office. It's a great area, and but it could use a little dressing up. There's also the Bayfront Plaza down there, which is really underutilized, and can become quite a gem. And now we own the entrance to Bay Oaks down there, which has a lot of potential. So I'd like to be a part of seeing those be done in a creative, not monotonous, boring kind of way.
Okay, so you brought up Bay Oaks, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. What is the future of Bay Oaks? What is your plan or proposal, or what do you support for Bay Oaks? The building's, from what I understand, it's kind of falling apart, needs work. You can't get to it, or you can get to it, but the marketing's been poor. Not a ton of people use it. So what's the plan for Bay Oaks?
That is a really good question. And, to tell the truth, I don't know. Now, I go to Bay Oaks quite often. I go out there for classes and hit the gym, and it's a ways off. And, people come here for the beach. So trying to attract anybody from off the island to come here to go off the beach is a hard sell, because they don't have to wait in traffic to go somewhere inland. There's a lot of potential there. The layout is a little weird because you have to walk down a ways to get to the main building. There are some other things that could be done there, but I'm just not sure everything can work out, because the Anchorage Committee really wants more facilities to do their thing. Bay Oaks is proposed to do that, but you're all bound in by the Matanzas Pass Preserve, so there's really no way to get access to the dinghies easily to use Bay Oaks. I've seen them wanting to add a few things and make it a little more interesting, or even rearrange things, but honestly, I'm not sure what the future of Bay Oaks. I would like to sit down and talk with BORCAB, talk with the people who are really involved to get their ideas. And I've seen some of the drawings, but honestly, it's a wide open book.
Okay. Do you think that Bay Oaks, the beach needs Bay Oaks, or could the area be put to better use?
Well, you know, it's important for some aspects because it is a bit of a community gathering spot. I mean, if you go, like my dad lives in a, it's not a gated community, but it's a little golf community, and they have all these public facilities. So they have places where you can go. They have a woodworking shop, they have tennis courts, they have pickleball, they have a golf course, they have tennis courts, and all those things are important for their sense of community to get together and do things. When I do go to Bay Oaks, particularly in the season, there's usually the same guys out there playing softball, they're out there playing bocce ball. You know, it may not be a large number, but for the people who do use it, it's a very important part of our community.
Okay, the light situation on Estero Boulevard. What's your solution?
That again, that's one of, I'm an engineer by training, and that is the type of problem that really make engineers wake up in the morning, because the white lights that they're proposing, and this is not like there's not some kind of federal program where they get free lights from some grant or something. This is just what FP&L is offering, and FP&L will save money because they're more efficient to use. They don't need it as much maintenance. Our lights are old. They're all different colors. They're all different types. But these lights that they're proposing, and FP&L does this. They're like they think that one thing was going to work for everybody. They're like a menu with one item. And the lights they're proposing are 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Kelvin, which is the same between moonlight and sunlight. So they're the worst color temperature for turtles, for sea turtles. Now, we are a nesting area for sea turtles. We are legally obligated to not, cause them harm. And these lights would do that. There would be a glow that's approximate to moonlight. I've been out on turtle releases, and on a dark night, it's difficult, even under ideal conditions, to get the turtles to go the correct way. If you had a moonlight glow from the opposite side, it's going to be a problem. Now, the other problem is if you go with the lights that the turtles can't see, they don't throw as far, so you need a lot more lights. What FP&L offers is like a ridiculous idea that's like $7 million because they want to charge $15,000 for every new light for every pole to put it in. And then a higher monthly cost. So it's a very difficult problem. I think the solution lies in some kind of compromise. I think that, putting white lights down, that you have to turn a lot of them off, creates blindness because your pupils constrict when you have the white lights. As soon as you leave the white lights and go to a dark area, it takes a while for them to adapt and you'll have blind spots. So it can be more dangerous having intermittent white lights than it can having no lights at all. So it is an interesting problem. I don't think that all of the options have been pursued. I think that jumping onto this white light thing, though, I understand that it's an opportunity to do something now, but I don't think there's no right time to do the wrong thing. But I think that doing the white lights is a simple solution, but I think it will be a headache in the long run.
So it sounds like we're in a situation now between humans and turtles. That's where we're stuck, because the cost to protect the turtles is sky high, and the cost to protect the humans is lower, but you can't protect the turtles for that price.
It's a trade-off. For the three, like you said, the 3 points. Is
it really a trade-off? Human life compared to a turtle?
No. But you have the turtles, and you have a legal obligation to the turtles. You have humans, and you have money. Those are the 3 things. But there are other things we can do, I think, to mitigate some of the risks that have not been done. And one thing is focus your lights on the congested areas, on crosswalks. And then, those where you push a button and lights flash to let you know someone's in the crosswalk, I think those are very effective. So you can do some things besides lights to really augment safety. It's not all about lights. And again, you have to turn, if there's a light that's visible, even it doesn't have to be directly visible, even the glow, because I live on the beach. My lights have to be turtle-friendly wavelength, and they have to be shielded. It isn't one or the other. And so if you have to turn off lights, you are going to diminish safety for 6 months of the year. So even the white light is not an ideal solution for humans because you just can't keep them on all year round.
Next topic. Do you think Fort Myers Beach needs to be rebranded, and would you have voted for the $65,000 contract for RMA?
It seems kind of excessive. I guess the proof will be in the pudding and to see what they come up. I know that branding is one of these things that has been holding up a lot of things. Like, something I'm really terrible about is things like colors, logos. If you're going to do a lot of investment in something, you have to build on some kind of base, and the branding comes down from that. We are a real tough thing to brand. And, you have to think, what is branding for, right? Branding is really for visitors. I think people on the beach know who they are. They know what we are. But it's a marketing tool to get away, to define who you are, so people want to come here and visit and come here and spend their money. So it's really a very pro-business thing. $65,000, I don't know where all that money goes to, what's really involved. But if it really works for marketing, then it will probably pay for itself for the town businesses.
Well, the lines to get on the beach now can go all the way back to the fire station, if not further. If the rebranding is about bringing more people to the beach, how many more people can you put on the beach? I mean, it's Fort Myers Beach. You think, I mean, obviously there are people out there that think that Fort Myers is confused with Fort Myers Beach. I didn't hear that until I heard local politicians talking about it. I'd never heard that before. People know that the beach is where the sand is. They know which way the beach is. I don't understand what you're going to brand it to, unless it's a gigantically bigger picture than just figuring out how to get more people to the beach.
Well, I have to disagree with him at one point because, I do travel a lot, and I was just out in Arizona for my dad's 85th birthday, and I was in Utah to do some skiing with a nephew, and I met people who have a connection with Fort Myers, and I tell them I'm from Fort Myers Beach, and they go, "Oh, I've been to Fort Myers." And I said, "Well, so have I, but I'm from Fort Myers Beach. We're quite a different town than Fort Myers," and I get the confusion all the time. But I don't think they're talking about changing the name. I think this is really about, I've also gone and I've, I play guitar like open mics, and I have a song about Fort Myers Beach. And
sing a little.
And I have, I'll bring my guitar sometime.
Oh.
But anyway, it just talks about a day, young people, what they come to Fort Myers Beach, even about traffic and what there is to do here. And I sung that. It's kind of an upbeat song. A guy, he told me, boy, obviously you've never been to Fort Myers Beach. Fort Myers Beach is about drugs and college kids getting drunk and falling out of balconies. So that's the image that we have with a lot of people.
Well, there's only one place on the beach that's familiar, that gives us that reputation, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
I can guess.
Okay. Does Fort Myers Beach need a PIO?
A PIO?
Yep.
What does that mean?
A public information officer.
Public information
have
officer.
RFPs out for a PIO that they're going to hire.
There's a bit of a hole in what the town does. And we don't really have much of a social media or a web presence. There's a website, the Community Resource Advisory Board, a mock app, and the app does things like tells you where the nearest bathroom is, because there's really there's no way to know where a public bathroom is. So I think there's probably a need. I think that job right now is being done by other people, but the town could probably benefit from that.
So what is your plan for the Florida Bridge?
The traffic right here.
Right. A bunch of things on the table to get that fixed, I guess, or changed so that it runs smoother. What do you support?
Well, I think when you're talking about traffic, and if you've been around for a little while, you realize traffic is probably worse during the weekdays here because of all the construction, all the people that are working on the island, and I don't think practically there's any way that you're going to alleviate the traffic situation entirely. I think that people blame this stoplight here for traffic, but when I get past the stoplight, I'm crawling all the way past the Landy Kai area because that's where a lot of congestion is. That's where you get the pedestrian traffic conflicts. I think it would be they could certainly dress up the entryway to the island. They could make it divided, make it a little safer to cross. I don't see it being a real solution for traffic. You can't put a roundabout there. They said there's not room. I think the only way to really help with traffic is to come up with a dedicated trolley line. Because I think the only way you're going to get people out of their cars is if they're sitting there for 45 minutes watching trolleys go by in a lane. Other than that, there's really not much you can do because you can't, unless you go through an eminent domain, the heck out of the downtown area and make this into a boulevard for traffic instead of what makes our island great, the people, then I think that we're kind of stuck where we are.
And they're putting up a second traffic light down there on Estero, not too far from the Landy Kai, but before the end of the year.
Crescent Beach, right?
Yep.
Or Crescent Street.
Right.
And,
how does that help?
Well, it probably helps if you're turning onto Crescent Street.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it hurts, because sometimes if you pulse traffic like that, then you'll give pedestrians an opportunity to cross when there's not a lot of traffic.
Did you agree with the town raising taxes? Would you have voted for it?
I think that the taxes, the property taxes, supply I think it's 15% of the town budget. I mean, we pay less in property taxes than we do for the library. We pay, it's like a half or a third than we pay for the fire department. So I think that the property taxes is probably a bit of it's a small burden for the big tax picture. I don't exactly know where it's going, but I know that they've had to build up the reserves. I'm a fiscally conservative guy. I don't borrow money I don't have personally. And so I think that if they're building up reserves and getting in a stronger position, then I think that's a good thing.
So yes or no? You would have voted yes or no?
I honestly, I'm not that up on the exact vote, so I can't say.
Are you in favor of 3 terms for the council members, or this referendum that's going to be voted on for 4?
Oh, the 3-year term versus the 4-year term?
3-year terms, yeah.
I think I prefer a 3-year term. I don't know if I would have signed up to run if it was 4 years. I know that's a risk. I also, the thing about March versus November, I think the reason why they have the election in March, even though it's an odd time, is because that's when a lot of the part-time residents are here. If you have it in early November, I know most people now vote, they vote online or they mail in their votes. And so I'm really not sure how that would affect the number of people to vote, but they originally moved it to March to give more people a voice.
What is your number 1 issue?
Boy, that's a tough one. So many things. I think that probably number 1 thing is to not lose sight of what makes Fort Myers Beach really a great place. There's so many things here. I mean, I'm completely in love with the island, and not just the downtown, the people. I love the nature. I'm just fascinated with the science of what goes on. Being backed up by the preserve. I think my number 1 thing is to not screw up what works. We can go forward, but there's a lot of really good things, and working in haste could create a lot more problems than you would solve by whatever you're trying to force through.
Other than that, what's the next issue? Come up, give me a real issue. That wasn't really a real issue.
By issue, I assume you mean something that's got to be
something going on in the town. Something that you're running for a reason.
I'm running for a reason, but the biggest probably reason is I want to see. I'm a fairly creative guy, and I want to see this downtown redevelopment done in a way that really speaks to everybody. And I think that's, you're looking for an issue, but I think there's going to be a lot of issues that arise from that. There's a lot that's going to be a part of that. I travel a lot. I've been to, I think, 140, 150 different countries. I've seen what people do with their public areas that work. And I think there's an awful lot of potential here to really make this shine. And that's probably my number 1 reason for running.
Okay, so is the town too heavy-handed with code violations? Do you hear people complaining about that? Or are they complaining just to complain, or is that a real issue?
I think that, the town for when I've been here, to me, it's always been a place where they have lots of ordinances that aren't enforced. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand that the law is you should have your dog on a 6-foot non-retractable leash. Everybody and their brother has retractable leashes. Yesterday, I was nipped by a dog on a long retractable leash.
You okay?
Yeah, I think I'll live. But, so there's, and, you're not supposed to drink on the beach. Go down to Sunset. You see everybody doing that. So I think there's probably been a lot of people who are used to ordinances not being enforced, and then it's a bit of a shock when they're actually enforced. And I understand that, you're used to doing something one way, it's difficult to do another. But when you have particularly, I know that the short-term rental is kind of a big thing. But if you're renting a place, your place is next to people who are either renting or living there. And you have an obligation to be available in case there's a problem and try to solve the problem with people you're renting to. I mean, that makes common sense.
Okay. So you think the town manager is doing a good job? How would you rate him on a 1 to 10 scale?
From what I see, I think he's doing a good job. I think that he brings a lot of money into the town. I think he knows how to get grants for things. Okay. And so I think that financially he's been he's gotten a lot of things in the town. I think he's been around a lot, and he knows it's a very practical thing. So, I like Roger. He's a bit of a hands-off kind of a town manager, but I think that I think he's doing a fair job, compared to what he had past.
If you were not running for office, what 3 people would you vote for?
Well, I've met Jim a little bit. I think he's a very astute politician. He's been around politics.
Jim Matterholt.
Yeah, Jim Matterholt. I know Dan Allers is a nice guy. We kind of share a lot in common as far as enjoying technology and that kind of stuff. I think that his views to me are a little bit extreme, wanting things like put bathrooms in residential areas and allow e-bikes on the beach. I know Forrest Critcher pretty well. I know that the one, I don't know about any conflicts potentially with the Baptist church he might have had, but I know that he is very loyal to the armed services, and one of his driving reasons for getting involved is to get a memorial to the armed services. He's a nice guy. And I don't know if I really know many of the other people running.
Okay. So what was the other question? Margaritaville. What's your stance? What has your stance been on that since this whole thing started from day one?
Well, I think, I would not go out of my way to try to overturn what previous council has done. They voted unanimously. I think, there will probably be some issues coming up. They'd probably be minor. And I think, just to work conscientiously and logically with them to get things done. I think it's going to go ahead. I think a lot of these lawsuits are just more vindictive than they are really aimed at stopping it. They probably would like to stop it, but I doubt they're going to. So, I think it should go ahead. My preference personally, the first one was a little large. The seawall gave me some concerns, mostly because I think that I don't think they could really keep the sand where they said they're going to keep the sand. I do like the mom and pop feel of Fort Myers Beach. It's one of my favorite things. Sitting here, around here, you see these things that are, they're run by residents or people who are close by. I think it's a great part of Fort Myers Beach. But that said, I didn't buy the land. When you buy the land, you can pretty much say within reason what you're going to put there. So, I think now that it's gone down this far down the road, I would just work to facilitate getting it done in a fair and logical way.
And you come to the council meetings and you do your reports pretty regularly from the committee meetings that you chair or that you attend. What is your opinion on how this council is doing?
I think the council is great. I've seen different councils. Sometimes you'll read some sensationalized news and you'll see things like, they'll talk about these arguments and that kind of stuff. But, they walk into the meetings and they like to be together. Sometimes they disagree on this. They do it in a, usually in a very congenial and respectful way. And so I think this council is a good model. And some of the members, some of the outgoing members, Anita, she is such a people person. I'm really impressed with her. And, Joanne, with her just deep down, intelligence and logic into what's going on, I think they're both going to be missed on the council.
In 60 seconds, tell everybody why they should vote for you. I'm thinking, compared to a lot of the other candidates I see, I'm a middle of the road kind of guy. I'm beholden to no one. I haven't taken any money from any of the big developers. I feel very passionately to preserve what we have. I realize that sometimes you have to compromise, and I think I'm a pretty middle of the road candidate. But since I've been here, I love to learn about things. I'm a very curious kind of guy. And the more I learn, the more I realize that there's a lot of things here that are very fragile and that we have to work to really protect. And water is one of the big reasons too. I've, as the head of the Marine Resources Task Force, we've been involved with this kind of thing for a while. In a lot of ways, we don't have much of a voice. We work very hard to try to set an example about how other communities should behave. And I think we'd like to continue that and to fight for what we have and to preserve what we have, including the water, the beaches, and the town. And finally, how can people reach out to you, find you, your campaign, donate to you if they like to, or just reach out and talk to you?
Well, it's a small town. Usually you just look around and find us. But yeah, I have an email address of record, billyveach@gmail.com. You're free to email me if you have any questions or concerns. You can come to any one of the committee meetings, and you can also talk there. Or if you see me on the street, walking on the beach, riding my bike, doing whatever, just